Hello and welcome to another episode of CryptoTime. My name's James Coughlan and I'm joined by my usual co-host, Antonio Shillingford. How are you today, mate?
I'm doing rather fine. It feels good to be back. You're not sitting there on your own this time.
Yeah, you left me on my own last week, which wasn't exactly nice of you, but it's great to have you back, mate. Great to have you back in terms of our dynamic of going through what's been cropping up in terms of news and media and what's most prominent. So this time, we normally go into two different subjects, but there's been something which is just literally bouncing out there at the moment. It's taken over pretty much all of the news outlets in terms of information, and that's all about what's happening with the Tulip Trust and Craig Wright moving coins and what's going to happen. So without further ado, we'll kick straight into this episode where we will do a bit of discovery. Let's look at what's been said across news and media, and we'll come up with some own opinions around it as well. So yeah, ready to kick in, sir?
Yes, indeed.
Good stuff. Let's get going. So we had a fantastic article come out from CoinGeek.com, and this was all about the Tulip Trust III. Some believe that Dr. Craig Wright has begun moving coins out of the Tulip Trust III, a fund that allegedly holds 10 billion worth of cryptocurrency. Why do they think this? Because on January 15th, Whale Alerts, which is a Twitter account, actually turned around and tweeted saying that a unknown amount, well, actually they said a huge amount of USD, totaling over 1 billion, has been moved from an unknown wallet address. Now, the whole idea behind this was to spark a bit of information around the community and obviously to create some movement around stuff. Now, we actually found out this was a complete load of rubbish afterwards. It was nothing of the sort. It was actually only 1,500 coins that was being moved. Not that that's a small amount of money, because obviously it's not, but it was actually being moved into a hot wallet for one of the exchanges. So it actually had absolutely nothing to do with Craig Wright whatsoever, which was interesting.
Yeah, so this actually pinpoints a lot of the problems within cryptocurrencies. The fact that you have these individuals on Twitter, I'm not saying this is everyone, but a lot of people in general, and these are the topics that go trending. So the fact that someone alerted that 1 billion USD had been moved from one wallet to another wallet, and then people are speculating whether that was Craig or not. And then you have a load of news and media outlets then take that information and then spin it into something completely different. And we now know that that was 100% not the original coins being moved. It was quite simply an exchange refreshing one of its hot wallets. But if you was a general person looking at any form of news and media between those time frames, you would have assumed that Craig had moved the coins from the Tulip Trust, which then, of course, sent the market in a frenzy. You had a lot of people, I'm not saying that this is all the performance that happened within BSV, but it did amount for some of it, because you had a lot of people that were effectively coming into the market and buying coins because they thought that the coins were initially moved.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I think the joke of it all is when you really get down to the meats and bones in terms of actually the information that came out, all that it said was it was an unknown wallet, right? An unknown wallet could have been me. I know it's not going to be that amount of funds, right? Yeah. But turning around and just saying an unknown wallet is linked to Satoshi moving coins, that's just ridiculous, to be quite honest. And it just shows how so many people in the crypto community chase after these things because it's what they want to hear rather than the actual truth in the background as to exactly what's going on. The further you dig into these things, you find out that obviously that wasn't the case, which is obviously a shame for people that wanted to see coins move. But I don't think it's any surprise to people like ourselves who are massive BSV supporters. We weren't expecting anything to move. I don't think that there was anyone really out there that was expecting that to happen either. And all of a sudden, just a tweet pushes everyone and spins them into a frenzy, which it just didn't make sense from my point of view.
And
yeah, go on.
Just to finish off on that as well, you had a load of these media outlets that are deemed to be reputable, taking these people's tweets, posting it on their website, and then creating a whole article around it.
Yep.
A whole article around something that hasn't been proven, around something that is not fact and completely wrong. So it's a lot of just misinformation as opposed to people actually looking into the court case itself, finding out the real details, because of course there is documentation along with it, and then just validating it themselves.
Yeah, no, 100% true. And I think that the interesting point to this is when we actually look at the whole scenario and actually move this kind of CoinGeek article to one side, and actually look at what our experiences were. It was a little over a week and a half ago, we found out that Craig had submitted the Tulip 3 documents across to the court. So everyone was quite excited by that because there was going to be more information that really the courts have been waiting for quite some time. There was also extension around that date to actually the 3rd of February, I believe, where Craig was actually had time to submit stuff now. So they weren't trying to sort of pressure him, rush him or anything like that. And all of a sudden he comes out with the Tulip 3 documents. Brilliant, right? Then after that, on Monday, so that was on the Friday, on the Monday, we'd heard speculation, and that really was what it was at that point, that the coins that were involved in terms of the Tulip Trust and the keys, and specifically what was going around was not public keys, it was private keys they were talking about at that stage, had also been told to the courts that he had access to them at that stage. Coming into Tuesday, there was more and more information that was supporting that, and actually it wasn't the case at all. The real key thing that we want to put out there today is it wasn't to do with private addresses, it was to do with public addresses. So he gained access to be able to view the public addresses. So he does not have access at this moment in time to the private addresses. I think that was very key.
Possibly.
That's what's being said anyway at this moment. And to be honest with you, it to me, out of everything that I've gone through in terms of this, seems like the most credible scenario to have taken place. And Craig has made it clear across the board, saying that he actually does believe that he's going to gain access to these coins, but he's not saying, a date or what's going to happen in relation to this, but he apparently is very certain he will gain access to these coins.
And the thing is, he's always kept consistent with that as well. So, of course, Jan 2020 is when he was meant to be gaining access to the Tulip Trust itself. He needed to wait for that to then review exactly what they've got, whether he had enough to access the encrypted file which held all of those particular addresses, and that's what he's actually managed to get hold of. The fact that he can actually decrypt that encrypted file, which provides him with the data that he has now handed over to the courts. It doesn't mean that he has the ability to move the original coinage. Now, I'm not saying whether he does have that ability or whether he doesn't have that ability. We're just all now in a situation where we just have to pretty much just sit and wait. Because there's no point speculating around it. Once we effectively start to see things moving about, and what he said that he was initially going to be doing with the coinage that was in the original addresses was dedicating those funds to creating education programs. So schools teaching people about real cryptocurrency, on how to actually utilize blockchain technology, what it's all really about, because it is just one big bank of data that everyone can access.
No, completely true. In relation to all of that as well, why we're sitting and waiting for obviously this to happen, I think what would be fantastic is if you guys as listeners or watchers, depending on obviously how you view this CryptoTime episode, can put a comment in below. Let us know what your opinion is. It's very valuable here to us at Bitstocks to understand what the main community are thinking. We know that we've got some great viewers on this show, and we know you've got some great opinions. So we would absolutely love to hear them in the comment section below. So I think it's going to be interesting to see what these people have to say as well, because it's a mixed bag out there and no one really knows the 100% facts as to what's going on. And I want to make it clear also that me and Antonio are not sitting here today saying that this is exactly what's happened. What we're saying is we've read across all of the news and the media outlets. This is the information which is bouncing around. At the moment, it's anyone's guess as to exactly what the deal is, but we're trying to get closer to that picture, which is interesting.
And I think especially since the last week and a half, it's been a very, 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 very busy week for me and you both.
Yes, it has indeed,
to the point where sleep hasn't really been a topic of conversation. Not even a little bit. But the good thing about that is we're client facing. So we are actually interacting and having conversations with multiple people in complete different job roles, whether they are very involved within cryptocurrency or whether you're a greengrocer. And we've been hearing all of these different views that people have been getting from, of course, all of these media sites and these news outlets releasing their articles. And it's been very eye-opening, to say the least.
Yep.
The fact that people's opinions change so drastically from what these media outlets are actually doing. So I just do strongly recommend, and again, not to sort of be going on and on about it, just find the source, the real source of what it is that you are researching. The fact that, of course, Craig is going through the court process. There's court documentation that everyone can read up on. Try and stay away from a lot of these media outlets, basically.
No, I think that's a fantastic warning to put out there, and I think it's, well, not so much a warning. It's along the lines, obviously, of common sense, but at the same time, it's one of these things where we've done it. Yeah, we've jumped down the wrong rabbit hole a couple of times, and then found out later down the line that actually, if we'd gone directly to the source, you would have had a better answer to it. And these are things that are obviously interesting for people to see. Also, you mentioned about price point, and obviously how we saw the price obviously explode over that period in time. And obviously that's not just solely down to what's happened in terms of the keys. Now, that is true, 100% from my personal opinion. When we're looking at what's happening in relation to BSV at the moment, there is a lot going for it in terms of good information that's coming. So next up, 4th of February, we've got the Genesis upgrade, removing that cap limit so we can really compete on a global level, well past even where BSV are at the moment. And where we are at the moment is fantastic. So pushing that envelope that bit further is only going to make things great. After that, we're going to have the CoinGeek event, which throughout history has always been very good in terms of giving information for what's happening in terms of the community, which will help along those lines. Then we've got things like the halvening coming up. We've got regulation coming into place. All of these things are setting in line to be very good for BSV. And I'm feeling extremely positive about the project at the moment and its longevity and where it's going.
Yeah, and even if you just look at BSV without the technical upgrades of the 4th. So if you just look at BSV currently, it is outcompeting every single project that is out there. So even this price pump that we've had over the past week and a half, my personal opinion, I still believe BSV is ridiculously undervalued. And the reasons why is because if you take things into account like Bitcoin, take things into account like BCH, their transaction volumes that they're actually currently having on chain, and you look at the transaction volumes that are currently happening on chain in BSV, BSV is outcompeting all of them. Now, the reason why that's important and the reason why you can attach value to it is because transaction volumes is what really fundamentally adds value to these cryptocurrencies.
Yeah, seeing people use them.
Exactly. You need usage to then prove its value. If it's not being used, it doesn't hold any value. That's why with BTC, Bitcoin Core, their whole view of Bitcoin being gold just doesn't work, because then you're just promoting people not to actually transact the currency itself or the technology itself. Then what value does it have? If no one is using it, there's no activity going on in chain, it has no value.
No, I agree. And I think that if people are just constantly with the view that tomorrow it might be worth more than it is today, what incentive do they have to go out there and actually use it and spend it and do all the rest? Now, I know BSV falls under the same remit in terms of the fact that obviously we think it's going to increase in terms of its value point at the moment. But the difference being is we're seeing real world utility built on top of it. There's actual reason for people to be moving this stuff around and actually using it to actually improve the way that businesses operate today. So that's where we see the vision going. Whereas Bitcoin just took that stop point. I mean, what's really happened since that boom point in December 2017? Absolutely nothing at all, really.
It's got worse and worse.
Yeah, I know there's things going on in the background that you hear about across news and media, but nothing really comes to fruition. It never really pushes anything any further. So for us at the moment, it does seem like the king is sitting there, with the BTC title in terms of its ticker name, but I don't think that's going to be something that goes on forever. And I know that there's going to be some interesting points to that. So again, if you guys got opinions on that, please comment and let us know about those.
You see the Wizard of Oz?
Yep.
And then they had the what was it? The King. I think it was the King.
Right.
Have you watched the Wizard of Oz?
Yeah, I've watched it, but it was a long time ago, mate.
All right, mate. So they had the Wizard of Oz, and then they had the king of the whole palace, basically.
Yep.
But basically, what he was a little minuscule man, and he was just projected a big face of himself.
Yeah.
To me, that's what BTC is.
So you're saying he's Lord Farquhar out of Shrek?
Yeah, pretty much.
Right, cool. I think actually this is a wicked place to wrap up this episode. As always, guys.
Just before we stop it there, the CoinGeek event.
Yep.
So happening on the 20th to the 21st of February, it is going to be solely focused around utilities. So what the companies within this space need to really be focusing on. In my opinion, this is going to be the biggest CoinGeek event that we have yet to take place, and it is happening on our home turf in London.
Brilliant.
So we'll definitely be there and hopefully see a lot of you guys there. So if you don't mind, now wrapping up.
Yeah, so guys, obviously head down, grab those tickets if you are available at that time. I think it's going to be a great event to go to, as Antonio was saying. And as always, guys, thank you so much for watching this episode. If you are enjoying the content, please hit that like, subscribe, and notification button. And as always, if you do want to listen to us, you can catch us on Spotify and iTunes. Thank you so much for watching. Bye for now.
Peace and love.